The galactic assembly floated like a giant glass bubble among the stars. Inside, hundreds of alien species chattered, their voices a mix of clicks, hums, and growls. At one end of the massive hall sat Mira, the human diplomat. She was a small figure compared to the towering Clitherans or the glowing Orivans, but her eyes burned with a quiet fire. For 250 years, humans had played by the rules of this alliance. They traded, they listened, they smiled through every unfair decision. But today, that patience was crumbling. The Clitherans, with their shiny black shells and sharp claws, dominated the assembly. Their leader, High Overseer Varn, clicked his mandibles as he spoke. The human mining on Terra 9 disrupts galactic balance, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. We've enforced restrictions to protect all species. Mira clenched her fists. Restrictions? That was a polite word for starvation. Terra 9 was a dusty human colony, rich with rare metals. The Clitherans wanted those metals for themselves, and 2 days ago, their enforcer ships had attacked. Thousands of humans died in the bombardment, miners, families, children. The news had reached Mira just hours before this meeting. She stood up, her simple gray uniform a stark contrast to the bright robes around her. You call it balance, she said, her voice steady but loud. We call it theft. For centuries, we've followed your laws. We've begged for fair trade. We've watched our people suffer while you grow fat on our work. And now you attack us? The chamber went silent. Even the Orivans, who usually flickered with nervous light, dimmed in shock. Varn tilted his head, his 6 eyes narrowing. Humanity is one voice among many, he clicked. You will obey, or you will be silenced. Mira smiled, but it wasn't friendly. You've mistaken our silence for weakness, she said. For 250 years, we've held back. We've built homes, raised families, and kept the peace. But Terra 9 was the last straw. This is your warning, humanity resigns from your alliance. You have 1 day to leave our worlds alone. If you don't, you'll see what happens when our patience runs out. Before anyone could respond, she tapped a device on her wrist. Across the galaxy, every human ship, freighters, scouts, even tiny shuttles, blinked off alien sensors. They were gone, like ghosts in the night. Panic erupted in the assembly. The Clitherans clicked furiously, demanding answers. The Orivans flickered in confusion, their glow pulsing wildly. A squid-like delegate from the Vun Empire waved its tentacles. Where did they go? It gurgled. Their fleet isn't big enough to challenge us. Mira didn't answer. She just walked out, leaving the aliens to argue. On Terra 9, deep beneath the burning ruins, a young engineer named Jax stared at a glowing console. He'd spent years hiding this tech from prying alien eyes, tech the Clitherans would never understand. His fingers hovered over a button. Myra's given the word, he muttered to himself. Time to wake the storm. Back in the assembly, Varn slammed a claw on his podium. Humans are nothing, he roared. One attack doesn't change that. We'll crush their rebellion. But as he spoke, a faint signal crackled through every screen in the chamber. It was a human voice, calm and cold, broadcasting from Terra 9. The storm is coming, it said. Then silence. The aliens looked at each other, their confidence fading. They had no idea what humans had been building in the shadows. For centuries, humanity had waited, watched, and planned. Now, the galaxy was about to find out what happened when that patience finally snapped. The Clitheran homeworld buzzed with activity. Its dark skies shimmered with the glow of 1,000 ships, war fleets scrambling to respond to humanity's vanishing act. High Overseer Varn stood on a balcony overlooking the capital, his claws twitching. The humans were gone, their ships undetectable, their colonies eerily silent. They're bluffing, he clicked to his advisors. One species can't challenge the might of the Clitherans. But deep down, a flicker of doubt gnawed at him. For 250 years, humans had bent to every rule, every restriction. What if they'd been hiding something all along? Far away, on the scarred surface of Terra 9, Jax crouched in a hidden bunker. The air smelled of burnt metal from the Clitheran attack, but his focus was on the console in front of him. Screens flickered with data, blueprints, energy readings, coordinates. For decades, humans like him had worked in secret, building tech the Galactic Assembly would never approve. Cloaking devices, weapons that bent the laws of physics, engines faster than anything the aliens dreamed of. They thought we were weak, Jax muttered, pressing a button. A low hum filled the bunker as machines whirred to life. Above ground, the ruins trembled. Something big was waking up. In space, the Clitheran fleet gathered near Terra 9's orbit. Their ships gleamed like beetles, bristling with cannons. Find them, Varn's voice crackled over the comms. Crush whatever's left. The fleet spread out, scanning the void. Then, without warning, space rippled. Dozens of human ships blinked into existence, not the rickety freighters the aliens expected, but sleek, deadly warships. Their hulls shimmered with cloaking fields, fading in and out like phantoms. Before the Clitherans could react, beams of white-hot energy sliced through their ranks. 3 enforcer ships exploded in silence, debris scattering into the dark. Panic gripped the Clitheran commanders. Impossible, one shouted. Their tech can't do this. But it could. The humans struck fast, targeting weapons and engines, leaving civilian ships untouched. It wasn't chaos, it was precision. Back on the homeworld, Varn watched the battle feed, his mandibles clacking. They've been lying to us, he hissed. All this time, pretending to be small. An advisor scuttled forward. Sir, our spies missed this. Their colonies, their output never matched what we saw. They've been building in secret. Varn's eyes narrowed. Then we end them now. Send the annihilation order. In the bunker, Jax's console pinged. He frowned, pulling up an intercepted message. The Clitherans weren't stopping, they planned to wipe out every human colony, starting with Terra 9 survivors. Not if I can help it, he said, typing furiously. The hum grew louder, and outside, the ground split open. A massive launcher rose, its barrel glowing with strange energy. Jax grinned. Let's see how they like this surprise. He hit the launch key. A pulse shot into space, invisible to the naked eye, but its effect was immediate. Clitheran ships in orbit stuttered, their systems frying. Half the fleet went dark, drifting helplessly. The Galactic Assembly watched in stunned silence as reports poured in. Human ships weren't just fighting, they were winning. The Orivans flickered nervously. How? One whispered. They've been under our thumb for centuries. A Vun delegate waved a tentacle. Maybe they weren't as weak as we thought. On Terra 9, Jax leaned back, watching his screens. The pulse had bought them time, but the war was just starting. He patched a message to Mira. Phase 1's done, he said. They're rattled. What's next? Her voice crackled back, calm and firm. Keep them guessing. The real storm's still coming. Above, the Clitheran fleet retreated, their confidence shattered. Varn slammed a claw into his console. Regroup, he roared. Find their bases. Burn their worlds. But as his ships pulled back, a new signal flickered across their screens. It was the same voice from before, cold and steady. You wanted our metals. Now you'll get our fire. The words hung in the void, a promise and a threat. The Clitherans had pushed too far, and humanity's hidden storm was only beginning to rise. The galaxy burned with chaos. Across dozens of star systems, battles erupted like wildfires. Clitheran fleets clashed with human warships, their once proud formations crumbling under attacks they couldn't predict. The Galactic Assembly, still reeling from humanity's sudden rebellion, split apart. Some species, like the glowing Orivans, quietly cheered for the humans, tired of Clitheran greed. Others, like the squid-like Vun, doubled down, sending ships to aid High Overseer Varn. But no one could deny it, the tide was turning, and humanity was steering the storm. In the cockpit of a sleek human fighter, Lena gripped the controls. Her ship darted through a debris field near a Clitheran war factory, an ugly metal moon bristling with cannons. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she dodged energy blasts. "Stay sharp, team," she said into her comms. "We hit their production line, they lose their edge." Her squad, 5 other pilots, followed close, their ships weaving like dancers in the chaos. For years, Lena had flown cargo runs, hiding her skills under the assembly's watchful eyes. Now, she was free to fight. The factory loomed ahead, its shields glowing green. "No way through that," a pilot crackled over the comms. Lena smirked. "Watch me." She flipped a switch, and her ship hummed with power. A small device detached, streaking toward the shield. It wasn't a missile, it was something new. When it hit, the green wall flickered, then collapsed. "Gravity bomb," Lena said, her voice steady. "Messes with their physics. Go." Her team surged forward, firing precise shots into the factory's core. Explosions bloomed, tearing the structure apart. Clitheran ships scrambled to defend it, but they were too late. On Terra 9, Jax monitored the strike from his bunker. His screens showed battles unfolding everywhere, human ships outmaneuvering bigger fleets, disabling them with tricks no one saw coming. The gravity bomb was his design, a secret he built with scraps under the Clitheran's noses. "They thought we were digging for metal," he muttered. "We were digging for freedom." A new alert flashed, Lena's team had succeeded, but something odd showed up in the wreckage. "Jax," her voice buzzed through. "We've got prisoners here, non-Clitherans. They're begging for help." Jax frowned. "Patch me in." Back in space, Lena landed her fighter on a shattered platform. She climbed out, weapon ready, and approached the captives. They were Orivans, their light dim with fear. "The Clitherans forced us," one whispered. "They've got plans, secret weapons, hidden bases. They'll kill everyone if you don't stop them." Lena's heart raced. This wasn't just about Terra 9 anymore. She relayed the message to Jax, who cursed under his breath. "Mira needs to know," he said. "This is bigger than we thought." In the assembly, Mira faced a room of arguing delegates. Varn's hologram flickered nearby, his voice sharp. "Surrender, human, or we erase your kind." Mira ignored him, turning to the others. "You've seen what we can do," she said. "We don't want war, we want fairness. Side with us, or step aside." The Orivans glowed brighter, signaling support. The Vun hesitated. Then Varn's feed cut out. Moments later, reports flooded in, a Clitheran fleet had vanished, hit by another human weapon. The chamber buzzed with awe. "They bend gravity," a Vun gurgled. "What else can they do?" Lena's discovery spread fast. The Clitherans weren't just greedy, they were desperate, hiding something massive. Jax dug into old data, piecing it together. "They've got a doomsday ship," he told Mira over a secure line. "Big enough to glass planets. That's why they're fighting so hard." Myra's jaw tightened. "Then we take it out. Lena's team is close, send her the specs." Jax nodded, his fingers flying across the console. The humans had surprised the galaxy once. Now, they'd do it again. Above the war factory, Lena's squad regrouped. The prisoner's words echoed in her mind, a deeper conspiracy, a threat to all. Her comms beeped with Jax's update. Targets a shipyard, 3 systems over, he said. That's where they're building it. Lena grinned, engines flaring. On it. Let's turn this tide for good. As her team jumped to lightspeed, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity's curiosity had sparked their survival, and now, it might save everyone. The stars seemed to hold their breath as the war reached its peak. Human ships darted through the galaxy, striking with a precision that left alien fleets in ruins. The Clitherans, once unstoppable, were faltering. Their homeworld trembled under the shadow of defeat, and High Overseer Varn's voice grew shrill with every broadcast. "We will bury them," he clicked, but his words rang hollow. The Galactic Assembly, now a fractured council, watched in silence as humanity rewrote the rules of power. The storm had arrived, and it was a force no one could ignore. On Terra 9, Jax worked tirelessly in his bunker. His screens glowed with updates. Lena's team was closing in on the Clitheran shipyard, the heart of their doomsday plan. The Orivan prisoners had revealed it all, a massive ship, the Eclipse, designed to scorch entire planets. "They've been building it for decades," Jax muttered, sending coordinates to Lena. "If that thing launches, it's over." His fingers danced across the console, activating the last of humanity's hidden tech. A faint shimmer pulsed through the bunker, teleportation nodes, a secret even he barely understood. "Time to end this," he said, patching through to Mira. In the assembly, Mira stood tall, her gray uniform now a symbol of defiance. The delegates whispered as she spoke. "We've uncovered the Clitheran's plan," she said, projecting a hologram of the Eclipse. "This isn't about mining or balance, it's about control. They'd burn us all to keep it." The Orivans flared with anger, their light pulsing. A Vun delegate waved a tentacle. "Why trust you?" Mira smiled thinly. "Because we're not asking for trust. We're showing you proof." She nodded to an aide, and live footage streamed in, Lena's squad attacking the shipyard. The room gasped as human ships blinked in and out of existence, teleporting through Clitheran defenses. Lena's fighter led the charge. The shipyard floated in a nebula, a sprawling fortress of steel and fire. Clitheran warships swarmed it, their cannons blazing. "Stay tight," she shouted to her team. Her ship shuddered as a blast grazed its wing, but she held steady. The Eclipse loomed ahead, half-built but already massive. Its hull glowed with power, ready to launch. "Jax, we're in position," she said through the comms. His voice crackled back. "Teleport nodes are live. Hit the core, now." Lena flipped a switch, and her squad vanished, reappearing inside the shipyard's defenses. Beams tore into the Eclipse's heart, and it erupted in a silent fireball. The Clitheran fleet froze, their command shattered. Varn's hologram flickered into the assembly, his eyes wild. "You'll pay for this," he screeched, but his feed cut off as his own forces surrendered. Across the galaxy, Clitheran ships lowered their weapons, their fight gone. Lena's voice rang out over open channels. "This is humanity. The Eclipse is down. Stand with us, or stand aside." The Orivans cheered, their glow blinding. Even the Vun hesitated, their loyalty to Varn fading. Days later, the assembly reconvened. The Clitheran seats were empty, their empire humbled under human oversight. Mira stepped to a simple wooden podium, no guards, no threats, just quiet strength. "We don't want revenge," she said. "We want a future. No more restrictions, no more lies. Work with us, and we'll build something better." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You've seen what we can do when pushed. Imagine what we can do together." Jax joined her, his rough hands stained with grease. "We've got tech to share," he added. "Teleportation, energy, more. Let's use it right." The galaxy shifted that day. Human colonies rebuilt, their skies buzzing with ships, human and alien alike. Lena flew patrols, her fighter now a symbol of hope. The Clitherans, stripped of power, faded into the background, a lesson in greed. But a shadow lingered. A rogue Clitheran faction escaped, vowing revenge. Mira knew it, and so did Jax. "They'll try again," he said one night, staring at the stars. Mira nodded. "And we'll be ready. This isn't the end, it's a new dawn." The story closed with a promise: humanity's storm had passed, but their fire still burned. They'd turned patience into power, curiosity into creation. The galaxy would never forget, not the moment they snapped, nor the moment they rose. And as alien children looked up at human ships, they dreamed of what might come next.